Repeated COVID-19 outbreaks at slaughterhouses and new diseases passing from animals to humans have created public anxiety over consuming meat. In response, interest in more sustainable and environmentally friendly plant-based alternatives are taking off, changing the future of food.
Asia-Pacific is the fastest-growing region in the world for alternative protein. In rising power centers like China and Thailand, surveys have shown that if cost and taste are equal, a majority of consumers now want their meat to come from plants instead of conventional animal farms. This preference has been projected to fuel a 200% surge in local demand for plant-based meat by 2025. Sensing an opportunity to capture the market and compete with Western brands that have traditionally led on food technology, homegrown startups in Asian innovation hubs like Singapore, Hong Kong, Seoul, and Shanghai are now rolling out delicious and innovative products that cater to both local and global audiences. Forward-thinking international brands are also pivoting to a more Asia-centered strategy that allows them to tap into the region's rich agricultural landscapes, expansive infrastructure and manufacturing power, and unparalleled market size. In just the past year, some of the world's largest food companies, from Thai Union to Nestle and Tyson, have rolled out new plant-based meats targeted at Asian markets, and many others have established R&D centers to set the stage for future regional expansion. Seeing the writing on the wall, major international food chains from McDonald's and Burger King to KFC and 7-Eleven are now racing to test out high-quality plant-based products, though most have not yet committed to making the menu items permanent. Not to be outdone, local Asian chains are also beginning to seek out a competitive edge and setting new global precedents in the process. Asia's embrace of alternative proteins extends far beyond just plant-based foods. In December 2020, following years of dialogue with GFI's global science and policy experts, Singapore became the first nation on Earth to grant regulatory approval for the commercial sale of a cultivated meat product, which is grown directly from animal cells. For the first time in human history, consumers can walk into a restaurant or place a delivery order on their phone and eat a real chicken dinner that didn't harm a single bird. This historic development followed extensive local R&D and taste testing, which has now set the stage for cultivated fish, shrimp, and other products to follow a similar approval process in the coming months and years. But despite all of this progress, industry-wide bottlenecks abound, and production of resource-intensive conventional meat and other animal products has continued to escalate. The path ahead for alternative proteins is anything but assured.
If per capita, these animal protein consumption in China rise to Western level, it's very hard to imagine, but there won't be that much supply anyway, and it's not environmentally sustainable.
Startups have only just recently begun to scale up their operations, which is an essential step towards lowering costs and making sustainable products more accessible to mainstream consumers. As companies expand their production capacity, costs are starting to creep downwards in select markets, but for now, alternative proteins remain significantly more expensive than conventional meat, which disincentivizes their purchase. Suppliers have only just recently begun to explore the bounty of raw materials grown in Asia that could potentially have alternative protein applications. Tapping into local ingredients and agricultural expertise can help diversify consumer choice and drive up the economic rewards for regional producers. But to date, most plant-based meats continue to be derived from a handful of well-established ingredients. Asian innovation hubs play a critical role in researching how local ingredients could be further developed. A lack of alternative protein manufacturing and commercialization infrastructure also threatens to stymie growth potential. To address this concern, some startups and companies have begun forming strategic partnerships with major Asia-based legacy brands to facilitate scaling up, which allows them to leverage the decades of institutional knowledge that multinational companies have at their disposal. But this bridge building is still at a very nascent stage. At the same time, The alternative protein sector's rapid rise has exposed a shortage in top-tier scientific talent. To train the next generation of food scientists, the Good Food Institute recently helped launch the first alternative proteins university course in Asia Pacific. But keeping pace with surging demand for sustainable protein in Asia means not only training new graduates, but also recruiting talent from adjacent fields like genetics, bioengineering, and bioinformatics, many of whom have never previously considered working in the food space. Perhaps most importantly, all of these steps, from R&D to regulatory approvals, require an active role from local and national governments, many of which have not yet made alternative proteins a priority. Without substantial public investment, alternative proteins cannot reach their full potential. These are solvable problems, but doing so will require all hands on deck. Technological advances and Asian innovation hubs have brought humanity to the threshold of a new food production era, which has the potential to dramatically reduce the climate and public health risks associated with conventional animal agriculture. But neither the public nor private sector can do it alone. It'll require a united commitment to fundamentally changing the way we feed a growing population. Whether our food system can pivot to more sustainable methods in time to actually mitigate the pressures of skyrocketing protein demand, climate disruption, and threats of viral outbreaks will hinge on how quickly Asian innovation hubs can resolve these issues and deliver sustainable replacements for conventional meat, dairy, and eggs that taste as good or better and cost the same or less. The clock is ticking.